Hampton, and today I'm going to be performing the legacy of Florence Nightingale and how she broke the gender barriers in the Crimea War. I'll be doing 4 perspectives. First, a Crimea War soldier. Second, Sir John Hall, a doctor. Third, Florence Nightingale. And fourth, Kathleen Briscoe, a nurse today. I'll start off with Samuel Wilson, a Crimea War soldier. I'm Samuel Wilson, a proud soldier in the Crimea War. I've been on the battlefield for about a year now. We've been fighting the Russians ever since they put pressure on Turkey. I've suffered serious injuries. I'm almost getting my leg blown off, so I've been sent here to this Scutari hospital. But I've been feeling worse. My bedding and clothes haven't been washed since I got here, which was around 3 months ago. The food they give us is just bread divided by 20. Not one day have I seen a soldier get a proper meal. If things don't change soon, this hospital will take me out before my leg does. Next, I will be performing as Sir John Hall. Sir John Hall was an army officer and a very respected man at the time. I'm Sir John Hall, a British army officer serving in the Crimea War. I've been sent to be the head of this Scutari hospital for my expertise previously being in India, South Africa, and Europe before this dreadful war. Unfortunately, a group of women, nurses, led by the incredibly annoying Florence Nightingale, have been ordered here, but I just dismissed them to their rooms because I knew they would just get in our way. However, Miss Nightingale has constantly been requested, practically begging me, to get fresh food, clean water, and new bedding for the soldiers, like that would help. After many weeks of them being here, a huge shipment of soldiers came in. For a lack of doctors, I had to let Florence Nightingale and her nurses help. But they just changed the bedding, got the soldiers clean food and water, and were just wasting time and getting in our way. But from my observations, after a couple of days after these methods, the soldiers became healthier. In the end, maybe Florence Nightingale wasn't so crazy after all. But I would never admit that to her, though. Even though she did help the welfare of the soldiers, she never went through the proper channels to get what she wanted. Third, I will be performing as Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale was a woman when in a time period when women had little to no power. I'm Florence Nightingale, a 33-year-old woman who had been told from God at the age of 16 to become a nurse. Ever since I was little, my sister Parthenople and I got a great education, while my mother and sister would rather plan parties. I loved to learn and explore new ideas. I then learned to teach myself about medicine, yet when I told my family about my adventurous past, my sister and mother were shocked and appalled. My father even had to sit down to process my words. Yet after many patient years, they finally let me attend the nursing school, St. Thomas Hospital, London. After years, my dear friend Sydney Herbert wrote me a letter for me and other nurses to go help the Crimea War soldiers. I quickly agreed and got to work. I then went to hospitals and interviewed nurses, yet many just wanted to find husbands. Without wanting any distractions, I then went to churches and interviewed the nuns. In the end, I had me and 30 other nurses on ship to Turkey. We arrived on November 5th, 1854. Immediately, I was in shock by the disgusting, dirty, unhygienic conditions the hospital was in. There were rats chewing on decaying bodies, and the food and water were covered in filth. And when I was shown to my room, there was a dead Russian army officer in my living quarters. With my concerns, I met with Sir John Hall, an ignorant man. He practically laughed off my expertise and sent my nurses and I to our rooms. At that moment, I wanted to express my knowledge and why we had been sent here. But I knew if I did, he would just send us home and nothing would be done. So I helped in a different way. I then began writing letters to Sydney Herbert requesting for new bedding, clean food, and water. And after these changes, Sir John Hall still dismissed my nurses and I and help. But after a couple of weeks of just patients and just sitting around, a huge ship of soldiers arrived, and with a little lack of doctors they had to let us help. So we changed the bedding, got for fresh food for the soldiers, gave them the right medicine and care. At night, I dismissed my nurses to the room where I would walk around taking care of the soldiers. I soon was called the lady with the lamp. After the Crimea War, when I returned home, I became very famous for my work. I then opened up the Nightingale Fund, which took donations and put them back into nursing reforms. I then also made a report on the Crimea War and how 18,000 men had died from injury and 16,000 from disease. Lastly, I will be performing as Kathleen Briscoe. Kathleen Briscoe is a modern nurse that we today would see in our modern hospitals. I'm Kathleen Briscoe, a 20th century nurse at St. Thomas Hospital, London, where I read Florence Nightingale's letters about the conditions the Crimea soldiers had to live in. And because Florence Nightingale discovered sanitation, less people die. As well as Florence Nightingale still influences our modern times today hospitals. She helps the cleanliness as well as the design of hospitals now. Unfortunately, Miss Florence Nightingale, after doing so much work, when she came home, she was very sick and was bedridden for 40 years. But this did not stop this determined woman. She continued writing thousands of letters to the Royal Commission on the Army's health, changing practices and saving lives. But how could I be surprised? This is the same woman who figured after the Crimea War that the sewer the hospital was in was poisoning the soldiers. In the end, therefore, I want to not only take Miss Florence Nightingale's intelligence into my work, but also her caring bedside manner. Florence Nightingale was a very ambitious and determined woman who broke the gender barriers as well as made nursing a respectful profession. She also improved health conditions and she continued her legacy through her nursing schools. She gave advice on the American Civil War and made a book of directions for cooking for the soldiers and the Army's health. Today, millions of people are saving lives because Florence Nightingale was willing to go against adversity to save lives. Thank you.